What's going on there, YouTube and Twitch fans? I just want to give a shout out real quick to the FKM Death Division. This is going to be Hop 75's TU-15 Negotiator Dilemma build using the Kingbreaker and Spotter build in the Technician spec, of course, for the laser. Just want to make sure everybody pays attention real quick because I'm going to try to stumble through this as fast as possible so that nobody has a delay in getting the build created for themselves. This build is awesome. It puts out tons of DPS. As some of the other creators would say, it slaps. And man, it will melt the enemies. So anyways, I just want to make sure that you guys check this build out and update 2.0 to my Negotiator Dilemma build, which was so hot and on fire on YouTube already. So let's go ahead and just dig right in, folks. I'm going to go ahead and head over here to the specialization table just to point out a couple of features to the specialization that I'm using in this build. As you can see, I've got the rocket launcher on my back, which means I'm using the Technician spec. The primary reason that this Technician specialization is used is because of the 12% damage to drones and skill proxies and robotics. It is also for the beneficial fact that I get a skill tier when using this build. This helps with many different things such as hives and other skills that I have to switch between, and when I need to use some shock traps or I'm going to use an EMP sticky. My favorites right now are going to be the decoy and the EMP sticky bomb, just because they're very good utilities and because this build pulls so much threat and generates so much aggro that I have to be able to run and hide like a little biatch. Anyways, getting back into the build, you can see the spec here. I've got rifles, ARs, and shotguns selected as my gun tree spec'd weapons. The reason why I have the rifle spec'd is because of the next piece that is so special, which is the Technician laser pointer. This pointer pulses targets that it's aimed at. So not only can you show your friends where the target is you're shooting, but you can also show yourself, and you immediately gain a damage bonus because of the build's construction. Let's get into the build. So, of course, as I mentioned in the title, the Kingbreaker is the weapon of choice. You will see here that it is Expertise 15, so I've got a huge damage bonus coming in at 15%. That doesn't mean crap. If you are just barely proficient or you are Expertise 1 or 2, this build will still stomp all over the competition out there, okay? So what you need to do is just make sure that your Kingbreaker is, of course, rolled with damage to targets out of cover or damage to armor. I prefer damage to targets out of cover because it is a larger multiplier. You will also see that the attachments I have on this weapon grant 20 rounds and 20% extra stability, as well as the linked laser pointer to make sure that I pulse my targets. I have added a 5% crit chance so that I hit the soft cap that I like to come up with and have set for myself. Okay? Next weapon of choice is going to be the Scorpio. This is the go-to for everybody. You'll see why after you use it a few times. Being that you are an all-red built DPS, you do need to be able to stalk targets in their tracks, such as Chungas and other targets that are going to try to push you extremely hard on legendary difficulty. Moving into the further points of the build, I have the TDI card custom. That way I can whip this weapon out and drop a hive if I have a reviver, or maybe I just want to carry it while I'm getting ready to drop a decoy, so I can give it an extra skill point so it's even that much better.
Incoming backup request.
Going into the further points, the exotic mask that I wear in this build is going to be the Coyote's mask. This is why I've set my soft cap for my crit chance between 45 and 48%. I do say soft cap legitimately, folks. Soft cap means that this is a point at which you do not want to increase the stat, because if you do increase it, you will actually lose benefit. So we want to make sure that people understand that fact as well, okay? So the mask here, when you shoot targets at 0 to 15, it's 25% critical hit damage. This build is crit damage focused, being that it is a Negotiator's Dilemma build. The crit damage numbers are what are important. The bigger they are, the bigger the damage is to marked targets. So you also have a 15 to 25 meter crit chance and crit damage bonus of 10%. You have a 25 meter 25% critical hit chance bonus. Very rare that we get that one unless we have a 3-stack of Coyote masks in the group. So 3-stack of Coyote mask, what's that? Well, it's when 3 players in the group are wearing Coyote masks, and you will receive all 3 buffs at all times once they begin to proc. Anyways, this mask is beneficial to my group because it does pass these buffs along to the group as a whole. Very important. All right, moving on to the other piece of gear that is all by itself here, the Grupo Sombra chess piece. I highly recommend this chess piece because its first bonus is 15% critical hit damage. This critical hit damage is crucial. It brings you up to the soft cap I like to reach of 175 minimum. I try to reach 180 as much as possible, but it's okay if you don't because you're going to get it through the procs of the Coyote Mask and the ND gear, or the Negotiator's Dilemma if you need me to translate. You can see that this gear is statted for critical chance and critical damage, and it has a critical damage mod on it. You can also see that the mask had a critical damage mod on it. Going into the Negotiator's Dilemma gear, the only piece of gear that's very crucial here is going to be that you notice I'm wearing the backpack. And the reason why the backpack has been chosen here is because of critical measures. This increases hostile negotiations damage to an additional marked enemies from 60% to 100%. Okay, you can see that the Negotiator's Dilemma gear offers critical hits, marked targets for up to 20 seconds, up to 3 marks total. Wearing the chess piece, of course, here would give you 5 marks, but it is very difficult to mark 5 targets. I do not recommend it. I think the Grupo Sombra chess piece is far better in this essence. So we're going to go ahead and move into the other portion of the build, which is very important and is also in the title, which is the spotter portion. The talented spotter chess piece talent. So spotter amplifies total weapon and skill damage by 15% to pulsed enemies. So as you can see, my chess piece gives me a 15% bump to pulse targets. You can see that my Kingbreaker gives me a 20% bump to pulsed targets. So I'm immediately, once I point that tactical laser, once I point that at an enemy and I fire that first bullet and every bullet after while I'm shooting him is receiving a total of 35% bonus damage. Okay, folks, 35% bonus damage. If it's a dog, it's receiving 47% bonus damage. It's mean as shit, people. It's going to eat them up. All right, so anyways, you do have to have 4 pieces of the Negotiator Dilemma in order to proc the 4-piece set. So I moved into the gloves. Gloves are slotted with crit damage. Knees, crit damage. And the holster at crit damage. All mods on this gear are crit damage except for the backpack, slotted with a 6% crit chance mod. Anyways, this is the pieces of gear. That was the build. Now let me show you the stats. Okay, so when you look at these stats, I have met my 48% critical hit chance soft cap that I mentioned, and I am 176, which is 1% above my 175 soft cap that I like to reach. All right, folks, this build melts. And if you want to see it, watch my streams. I have past streams upon past streams upon past streams running this build, and you will see that it shreds the enemies. You do have to be careful. It is an all-red build, so fight from cover. Use your decoy wisely and make sure you EMP shock them dogs. Haven't tried this build in PvP yet, but I'm sure it would shred as well. Folks, I really hope you enjoyed this build, and this is Hop, signing off.